Hello everyone! In this video we are going to take a look at one of the most mysterious and also one of the best studied, although not always that well known in the West, case of the Colares incident which took place in Brazil towards the end of the 1970s. This story has been extensively covered by local Brazilian sources and would probably be best reported in Portuguese. However, thanks to the courtesy of the late General Alfredo Uchoa and his son, also a General Paulo Uchoa, both of whom were involved in the studies of UAPs, we got to know a well-detailed report of those events. In the second half of the 1970s, an event lasting several years haunted the people who lived along the Brazilian coast in the northeastern part of the country. Reports of unusual lights and aircraft passing and hovering over the small towns and villages started appearing there. The objects could be as small as a baseball and looked like orbs, but some were also gigantic in size. The shapes and forms were also varied. Triangular, cylindrical, and saucer-shaped crafts were just a few examples. The terror the local people suddenly had to face was further exacerbated by the fact that this is a quiet area, and especially so in terms of regular air traffic. In this case, however, the visitations of the strange craft were far from benevolent or even innocent. The orbs were following and even chasing people, effectively targeting and shooting them with some form of energy beam weapons, simply knocking them out and/or leaving burn marks. There were reports of people who were allegedly subject to abduction attempts, oddly enough with nets and hooks being used as the tools to capture them. As the number of these reports grew, so did the panic. People started running for safety just at the sight of any airborne object, and even animals tended to react aggressively or by running away at the visitations. Car engines gave up and left people escaping afoot from the spots of the anomalous contact. To make things worse, apparently nowhere was safe. Stories about beams shining through solid roofs into house interiors were not too unusual. There were even reports of blood being sucked out of the victims' bodies by this strange craft, which gave them the nickname of Chupa Chupa, or bloodsuckers. The anomalies drew in an investigation officiated by the Brazilian Air Force. 20 investigators and doctors with Lieutenant Colonel Uiranga Holanda arrived in the Colares area to investigate. What was initially planned as just that, interviews, perhaps a handful of photographs, soon turned into a team from the military becoming first-hand witnesses to some of the terrifying encounters. Their own evidence soon included many photographs of strange objects, one even as long as 300 feet. While initially human foul play was suspected, including use of highly advanced and possibly mind-influencing sound or energy weaponry, none of these observations could or would justify the events. The aforementioned island of Colares, with approximately 10,000 inhabitants, became the epicenter of these events during 1977 and 1978, giving rise to the name of the entire wave, the Colares incident. A medical practitioner named Dr. Carvalho provided medical care to approximately 40 people in Colares in 1977. Most of the victims suffered from burns similar to the ones caused by thermal or directed energy radiation, and these were mild. However, there were also people with deep scars, suspicious rashes, and, in conformity with the Chupa Chupa description, twin puncture wounds in the middle of the burned areas. The tests carried out by Dr. Carvalho also indicated low hemoglobin levels in the victims. Other findings were as terrifying. Military records showed that more than 300 animals were found dead, with the cause of their passing being impossible to determine. More than 30 people suffered from irradiated eyes, with a few cases of temporary blindness and others reporting sight deterioration. Other symptoms included nausea, vomiting, and extreme headaches, almost suggesting radiation damage to many victims. People reported the feeling of heat with what they were struck, namely the beams of light from the craft, while oddly so, others reported the bubbles of cold hitting them. Almost 20 people claimed to have been abducted on board the craft, with some of them found far away from the place of the initial encounter, and without memories of traveling anywhere. Catatonia and partial paralysis, as well as chronic illnesses, eventually resulting in 10 deaths, complete the harrowing descriptions. Photographic evidence of all the possible injuries remains to this very day. Some of the victims reported seeing their attackers with two dominant descriptions, one being pale, tall humanoids similar to the Nordic or tall white aliens, while the others were beings with oversized heads and standing 3 to 4 feet tall. The famous grey aliens matched this particular description. The military files from the investigation were classified and hidden. In 1990s, one of the heads of the investigation, Mr. Hollanda, died in mysterious circumstances, officially ending his own life, soon after the files saw the light of the day again. Apparently the truth about the incident was mostly buried by the officials and remained only in the memories of the residents of Colares and the neighboring areas. If true and with quite substantial evidence, there is little to no reason to think that the story was somehow fabricated, and the Colares incident may have been one of, if not the most aggressive activity related to UFOs, UAPs, and the intelligences controlling them to date. And what do you think, dear viewers? Do you believe that this was an alien intervention, or perhaps there was something far more mundane, like tests of experimental weapons or even mass hysteria? Perhaps you are from Brazil and would like to comment on the case. Let me know in the comment section down below. Brazil is a known UFO hotspot. I have already covered the suspicious Magé incident from 2020, but I yet have to talk about another famous case involving a possible recovery of a living alien being, that of Virginia from 1996. That and more is yet to come, so stay tuned. In the meantime, thank you for watching, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you soon in another video. Take care.